Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we sift through the sources to bring you the insights that, well, really matter. Today, picture this. A 15-year-old security researcher, a flaw in an email system that seems pretty minor at first glance, and somehow that leads to a backdoor into some of the world's biggest companies. It's not just a tech story, though. It's really a lesson, I think, in ethics, corporate responsibility, and honestly, the surprising ways our digital world is all tangled together.
Absolutely, the fascinating chain of events.
So our mission today is to do a deep dive into this recent event. It really shines a light on, cybersecurity, bug bounty, supply chain risk, all that stuff that often happens behind the scenes. We're going to unpack how one bug, which was initially dismissed, kind of spiraled out of control, and what it means for anyone using online services today. For this, we're looking at a vulnerability found in Zendesk. You probably know them, huge customer service tool. Our sources are pretty interesting. Zendesk's own official write-up, the bug hunter's super detailed account on GitHub, which is quite a read, and the public CVE details. And it's really fascinating how you get these different perspectives on the exact same events, right? It's not just tech details, it's the human side, too.
It really is. It's a case where you see this collision between a really sharp researcher,
Yeah.
platform everyone uses, and the whole trummy nature of digital trust. And these sources, yeah, they definitely show the friction that can pop up between security research and, let's say, corporate processes.
Okay, so to really get the gravity here, let's set the scene first. Just how big is Zendesk? Why is it such a target?
Oh, Zendesk is massive. I mean, loads of huge companies, Fortune 500s included, they all rely on it for customer support emails. Think about it. You email support@company.com, right? Often, that email just gets forwarded straight to Zendesk. Zendesk then turns it into a support ticket. It's fundamental for how companies talk to customers. Central hub for sensitive stuff. But as we're about to see, that integration, if it's not locked down tight, it can become a systemic weakness.
Right, and this is where Daniel comes in. Online handle HackerMonDev, he's only 15, but clearly has programming chops and a real knack for finding bugs. He found something serious a way for an attacker to read support tickets from any company using Zendesk. Can you even imagine the kind of data that exposes customer info?
Oh, absolutely. And Daniel's find wasn't just theoretical, like some abstract problem.
Yeah.
It was a clear, practical way to get unauthorized access. We're talking potentially private customer chats, account details, maybe personal info. It immediately makes you question data privacy,
Yeah.
and how much trust we put in these third-party tools.
So what was the actual bug, the initial discovery? Was it super complex or was it sort of alarmingly simple? Let's walk through how it worked.
Well, at its core, it came down to how Zendesk handled emails and ticket creation, and a key oversight. So you email support, Zendesk makes a ticket. Simple enough. But then it makes a special reply to address for that email thread. Something like support plus ID@company.com. Now here's the critical bit Daniel found. Those ID numbers, they were just incremental, easily guessable, like, ticket 101, then 102, then 103. You can figure out what's next pretty easily. That predictability was the foot in the door.
And there's this email collaboration feature in Zendesk. Sounds useful, right? But here it became part of the vulnerability.
Exactly. The feature means if you CC someone on a reply in that thread, Zendesk automatically adds them to the ticket, gives them full access to the whole history.
Okay, so the exploit. The attacker knows the support email. They can guess the ticket ID. What next?
Right. So they spoof an email, make it look like it's from the original person who started the ticket. They send this fake email to that specific support plus ID@company.com address. And here's the crucial part. They CC their own email address. Zendesk, it didn't have strong enough checks against email spoofing at this point. So it sees the CC, thinks it's legit, and adds the attacker to the ticket. Boom, full access.
Wow, okay. So Daniel finds this, does the responsible thing, reports it through Zendesk's bug bounty program on HackerOne.
Yep, standard procedure.
And gets rejected. Seriously.
Rejected. Their reasoning, it relied on email spoofing, and email spoofing was listed as out of scope in their bounty program rules. He even pushed back, asked for a Zendesk staff member to take another look. But initially, nope, they refused to reconsider.
That feels wrong. I mean, out of scope shouldn't mean ignore a real risk, should it?
Well, that's the crux of the debate, isn't it? A rigidly applied out-of-scope rule can blind a company to a genuine critical problem. Dismissing it just because it uses a common technique like spoofing, that's a big point of tension in bug bounties. It can really discourage researchers.
But Daniel didn't stop there. This next part is where it gets really clever, I think. What did he do after being turned down?
He started connecting dots. He remembered reading an old blog post from 2017, Ticket Trick, it was called, by a researcher named Inti Do Chocolare. That post showed how to use Zendesk vulnerabilities to get into private Slack workspaces. And Daniel knew lots of companies use Slack's single sign-on, SSO, often on the same domain as their Zendesk support. He saw a way to show the real impact.
Right, but Slack had fixed that specific trick from 2017, hadn't they? Added random tokens to stop that kind of email verification attack.
They had. Slack smartened up. But Daniel, he dug deeper. He realized, okay, Slack uses random tokens now, but what about other login methods, specifically OAuth logins via Google or Apple? Turns out neither Google nor Apple use those random tokens in their verification emails at the time. OAuth is everywhere. Lets you log in using your Google or Apple account.
Okay, so a potential workaround. But there was another hurdle.
Yeah, he found that Google's verification emails, the ones from norply@google.com, they were actually blocked by Zendesk, probably a fix they put in after that original ticket trick issue.
That Apple.
Apple was different. They sent verification emails from applied addresses, and Zendesk did process those. It created tickets for them. That subtle difference, how Apple's verification emails slipped through Zendesk's net, that was the key. It's a classic supply chain weakness, right?
Right.
Slack's own security was okay, but it could be bypassed by exploiting trust in Apple's verification process, mediated by Zendesk's vulnerability. Daniel himself apparently called it jackpot when he found it.
That's just brilliant detective work. What does that tell you, though, about relying on these big third-party verifications, even from Apple, in these complex systems?
It tells us the chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And that link isn't always obvious. Companies might just assume an email from Apple is trustworthy. But if the system processing that email, like Zendesk here, doesn't handle it securely, doesn't check for spoofing properly, it creates this unexpected attack path. You really have to question every assumption about trust when you have all these vendors interacting.
Okay, so let's break down the full attack chain he built. 6 steps, turning that out-of-schedule email bug into taking over a company's Slack. Step 1.
Step 1. Create an Apple account, but use the target company's support email, like support@company.com. Then ask Apple to send verification code. Apple dutifully sends the code from applied at id.apple.com to support@company.com. And Zendesk, seeing this email, creates a ticket for it. He's basically tricking Apple into sending mail into the vulnerable Zendesk system.
Okay, so Apple sends the email, Zendesk makes a ticket. What's step 2?
Step 2, happening around the same time. Daniel creates a totally separate normal support ticket using his own email address on the target company's portal. This isn't part of the main exploit, it's just to get a feel for the current ticket IDs. Remember those incremental numbers? He needed a recent one to guess the ID of the Apple verification ticket.
Right, reconnaissance. So he's got the Apple code sitting in a Zendesk ticket, and he has an idea of the ticket ID. Now, the original spoofing bug comes back.
Exactly. Step 3, he uses that initial email spoofing vulnerability. He sends fake emails that look like they're from applied at id.apple.com. He sends these to his guest ticket addresses like support plus id102 at company.com, support plus id103 at company.com, and so on. And the critical move, he CCs his own email address on these fake emails.
So Zendesk gets these spoofed emails, thinks they're replies from Apple related to those tickets, sees his CC.
And adds them to the ticket thread, including the one with the real Apple verification code inside.
Clever. So step 4 is just logging in and grabbing the code.
Pretty much. Step 4, he logs into the company's support portal using his own account. Because Zendesk added him to the CC list on that ticket, he can now view it and see the Apple verification code.
Okay, almost there. Step 5.
Step 5. Take that code, go back to Apple's website, and enter it to verify the Apple account he created using support@company.com. Now, he effectively controls an Apple ID that's linked to and verified by the target company's official support email address.
And the final step, the big one.
Step 6, he goes to the company's Slack login page. He uses the login with Apple option, signs in with the Apple account he just verified, and bang, he's logged into the company's internal Slack workspace. Full infiltration. This whole chain, it demonstrated a severe supply chain vulnerability. It got assigned CVE-2024-49193. Rated high GH severity, 7.5 CVSS score. Basically, authentication bypass by spoofing. That's CVE-290 if you track those weaknesses.
Wow, wow. From a dismissed email bug to walking into Slack, that completely changes the game from Zendesk's initial out-of-scope assessment, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It wasn't theoretical anymore. He showed concrete, high-impact risk stemming directly from the vulnerability they'd ignored, meticulously chained together.
So Daniel proved his point in a pretty dramatic way, but what happened next? That's
Well,
almost as contentious, right? He didn't just publish it all immediately.
no, he didn't go public right away. After figuring out this whole chain, he started reaching out directly to the affected companies, the ones using both Zendesk and Slack in this vulnerable way. You could argue this was, well, strategically smart, maybe ethically necessary, given Zendesk blew him off initially. Many companies apparently took it seriously right away, though some did try to say, this is a Zendesk problem, not ours.
And this direct approach worked out for Daniel, financially speaking.
It certainly did. He ended up earning over $50,000 in bug bounties directly from those individual companies through various platforms. That's huge, especially for a 15-year-old.
$50,000. That definitely shows those companies saw the value, even if Zendesk didn't at first.
It's a clear market signal, right? The organizations facing the direct risk valued fixing it, and quickly.
So eventually, the pressure from these customers must have reached Zendesk.
Exactly. With their own clients getting these direct vulnerability reports, Zendesk finally came back to Daniel. They asked him for confidentiality, wanted the full steps for the Slack takeover, despite, rejecting him earlier. And then it took them over 2 months to actually roll out a fix.
2 months, okay. And what was Zendesk's official line on this?
Their product manager, Sean Cusick, put out a statement. Said they identified and fixed it by July 2nd, 2024. Claimed no evidence bad actors had actually used it. Standard corporate response, really.
And the fix itself, what did they actually do?
They tweaked their internal spam filters, using RSpam analysis more actively in certain cases. RSpam is a pretty powerful open-source spam filter. They also started automatically suspending certain types of emails, like those Apple verification emails based on headers, and some Google emails, too. But, looking at the reaction online, a lot of security folks called it a Band-Aid fix.
A Band-Aid. Why? What was the criticism?
The argument was they basically just blocked the specific attack path. Daniel found the Apple emails, certain Google emails. They didn't address the root cause, the predictable ticket IDs, and the underlying weakness in trusting email content without better validation. It felt like patching symptoms, not the disease.
That makes sense. It's like blocking one specific type of lockpick instead of changing the flimsy lock itself.
That's a good analogy. The core vulnerability might still be there, waiting for someone to find a different way in, maybe using verification emails from another service they haven't blocked yet.
Okay, I get the criticism, but playing devil's advocate, getting any fix out in 2 months for something this complex, isn't that somewhat reasonable? Or was the core issue just so fundamental they should have done more, faster?
It's a fair question. Speed matters when customers are exposed. But the criticism wasn't just about the time, it was about the type of fix. Many felt the root problems, guessable IDs, weak email trust were known issues or should have been obvious. Blocking specific email types feels reactive. A more fundamental, architectural fix, like rethinking ID generation or email validation, that's proactive. So 2 months for a fix. Maybe, but was it the right fix? That's where the debate lies. It still raises questions about their overall security approach.
And here's the real kicker, right? After all this, after they used his research to fix the problem, Zendesk paid him nothing.
Zero bounty from Zendesk, their official reason. He violated HackerOne's disclosure rules by contacting those third-party companies before Zendesk had fixed the issue.
Wow, that decision caused a huge backlash, didn't it?
Oh yeah, the security community, public comments. People were calling Zendesk's handling pathetic, amoral, short-sighted. The strong feeling was that Daniel's actions, contacting the companies directly, were basically an ethical necessity because Zendesk had dismissed him first. It really threw fuel on the fire regarding bug bounty ethics. The perception was Zendesk cared more about sticking to the rules, maybe protecting their image, than acknowledging the value Daniel provided or the risk their customers faced.
And HackerOne, the platform, they caught some flack, too, for the initial triage and the out-of-scope policies.
They did. The whole incident made people question how effective these platforms are at handling complex or chained exploits, and whether out-of-scope rules sometimes do more harm than good. There were even reports, unconfirmed maybe, but reports of companies looking to move away from Zendesk because of how this went down. It definitely damaged trust.
So zooming out, what are the bigger lessons here? This case is a textbook example of a supply chain vulnerability, isn't it?
Absolutely textbook. A weakness in one tool, Zendesk, cascaded outwards. It wasn't just about Zendesk. It was about how Zendesk's flaws impacted Slack SSO, Apple ID verification, company email systems, the whole interconnected ecosystem. It's a huge wake-up call. Your security is only as strong as the security of all the third-party tools you rely on. Their vulnerabilities are effectively your vulnerabilities. You have to scrutinize your vendors.
And it forces that conversation about disclosure ethics again. What do you do when a vendor dismisses a serious report?
Right. It pits responsible disclosure protocols, which are important, against a researcher's potential ethical duty to warn people who are at risk, especially when the vendor isn't acting. It raises that tough question. If a company's policy creates a blind spot, does the ethical burden shift? Many argued, in this case, yes, Daniel did the right thing by warning the affected companies directly, even if it broke the bounty rules.
It also makes you think about bug bounty programs themselves. Are they working as intended?
Well, it highlights the limitations, doesn't it? The out-of-scope problem, the difficulty of triaging complex issues quickly, ensuring researchers are fairly rewarded for finding really high-impact stuff. There were definitely comments saying actions like Zendesk's just discourage the good guys, the white hats. It might even push some towards, selling vulnerabilities instead of reporting them.
And you mentioned the SSO angle earlier, the identity trust issue.
Yeah.
Can we unpack that distinction again? The directory versus non-directory SSO. Why is that so important here?
Sure. So directory SSO. Think like your work Google account. Your company controls that account, that identity. They create it, manage it. Non-directory SSO is different. Think sign in with Apple. Anyone can create an Apple ID using, say, support@somecompany.com and then verify it just by clicking a link in an email sent to that address. The company doesn't directly control that Apple ID creation. The blind spot happens when systems assume an email address like support@company.com is always controlled by the company's secure directory. They trust the external verification, like Apple sending an email, without enough internal checks. Attackers exploit that gap in assumptions.
That's a really subtle but crucial point about layers of trust online we just take for granted. And finally, this whole thing makes you wonder about company culture, doesn't it? Security versus PR, learning from outsiders. Some people even brought up Zendesk's slightly controversial Zendesk alternative marketing campaign from a while back, suggesting maybe a bit of corporate ego played a role. Do you see a cultural element here?
I think it's hard to ignore. A strong security culture isn't just about firewalls and code reviews. It's about humility, about being willing to listen to external feedback, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it comes from a 15-year-old. When you dismiss valid findings, especially from young researchers, it sends a really poor message. It suggests defensiveness might be prioritized over actual security improvement. It can look like, as you said, damaging ego getting in the way.
So wrapping this up, this deep dive into CVE 2024-49193, it shows how seemingly small bugs, chained together, especially when overlooked, can create massive risks across huge organizations. It's definitely a story about the ingenuity of researchers, especially young ones, but also a stark warning for companies. Listen, adapt, take security seriously across your entire supply chain.
And for you listening, the takeaway isn't just about the tech. It's about the human side, the ethics of cybersecurity. It really pushes us all to think more critically about the services we use every day, the companies behind them, and the security practices holding it all together. Or sometimes not.
So here's a final thought to chew on. In a world where a teenager can find flaws that giant corporations miss, how do we build a system, a culture, that actually values and acts on critical insights, no matter where they come from? And what responsibility do companies truly have when something they label out of scope blows up into a major problem for everyone else? How do we encourage genuine openness and proactive security for real?
Lots to think about there. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time, stay curious and stay informed.